Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari. Jai Mishnapad Paramahansa Padavijikacharya Ashtoto Tadashi Shrimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Mishnupad Paramahansa Padavijikacharya Ashtoto Tadashi Shrimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Marcy, I think we're on 17. It's either 17 or 18. I know we have to have a better system for this. Were you here last time too, Ace? Were you on the last class? Okay. What do you think, Marcy? I mean, it's not the end of the world if we repeat one. We definitely did 16. That I know. I think we did 17 too. Yeah. Let's do 18. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On the second day of September 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are reading from the 6th chapter called Dhyana Yoga, the Yoga of Meditation. Text number 18, page 273. Yada vinayatang chittam Atmanye bhavatishtate Nispraha sarvakamebhyo Yukta it yuchyate tada Yada vinihitam chittam Yatam Atmanye bhavatishtate Nispriha sarvakamebhyo Yukta it yuchyate dada Yada viniyatam chittam Atmane bhavatishtate Nispriha sarvakamebhyo Yukta it yuchyate dada. Parashakti. Yada viniyatam chittam atmanye bhavatishtete nispiha sarvakamebhyo yukta ityuchyate tadha. Yada viniyatam chittam atmanye bhavatishtete nispiha sarvakamebhyo yukta ityuchyate tadha. Jamal, you got it there? Yada viniyatam chittam atmane bhavatishtete nispiha sarvakamebhyo yukta ityuchyate tadha. Yada viniyatam chittam atmane bhavatishtete nispiha sarvakamebhyo yukta ityuchyate tadha. Yada, when, viniyatam, particularly disciplined, chittam, the mind and its activities, atmani, in the transcendence, eva, certainly, avatishtete, becomes situated, nispriha, devoid of desire, sarva, for all kinds of, kamebhya, material sense gratification. Yukta, well situated in yoga, iti, thus, uchyate, is said to be, tada, at that time. Translation. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. Purport. The activities of the yogi are distinguished from those of an ordinary person by his characteristic cessation from all kinds of material desires, of which sex is the chief. A perfect yogi is so well disciplined in the activities of the mind that he can no longer be disturbed by any kind of material desire. This perfectional stage can automatically be attained by persons in Krishna consciousness, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 9:4-18-20. This is describing King Ambarish. All right, I'll just chant it myself. Savai mana Krishna padara bindayo bachangsi vaikunda gunana varnane karo hare mandira marjanarishu shutin chakara chutta satkatodeye mukunda lingalaya darshane drisho tadbhritya gatra sparshinga sangamam granam chatatpara soroja saurabhe Srimat tulasya rasanang tadapite pado hare chet padanu sarpane Shiro Rishikesha Badabhivandhane Kamam Chadasi Natu Kama Kamya Yatottama Shloka Janashaya Ratihi. King Ambarish first of all engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Then one after another he engaged his words in describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, his hands in mopping the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing of the activities of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the transcendental forms of the Lord, his body in touching the bodies of the devotees, his sense of smell in smelling the scents of the lotus flowers offered to the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaf offered at the lotus feet of the Lord, his legs in going to places of pilgrimage and the temple of the Lord, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in executing the mission of the Lord. All these transcendental activities are quite befitting a pure devotee. This transcendental stage may be inexpressible subjectively by the followers of the impersonalist path, but it becomes very easy and practical for a person in Krishna consciousness, as is apparent in the above description of the engagements of Maharaj Ambarish. Unless the mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord by constant remembrance, such transcendental engagements are not practical. In the devotional service of the Lord, therefore, these prescribed activities are called archan, or engaging all the senses in the service of the Lord. The senses and the mind require engagements. Simple abnegation is not practical. Therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in the renounced order of life, transcendental engagement of the senses and the mind, as described above, is the perfect process for transcendental achievement, which is called yukta in the Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So as we were chanting the verse 18, I was looking at that second word, viniyatam. Viniyatam. Now you remember that the Ashtanga Yoga practice begins with yama and niyama. That second point is niyama. Notice this is the same word here, niyatam. And that prefix V means perfect, or what does he say? Particularly disciplined. So yama are actually the don'ts, and niyamas are the do's. This is every discipline has the don'ts and the do's. Why did the don'ts become first? Because before you can even begin to do the right thing, you have to stop doing the wrong thing. If you're completely absorbed in sinful activities or material activity, there's no question of beginning yoga. So Krishna's just gone through a series of verses describing literally the process, the technical process of beginning yoga, sitting in a very holy place on a certain kind of seat, a certain kind of posture, where to look, keeping your eyes between the eyebrows, and then he talks about, two verses: not eating too much, not eating too little, not sleeping too much, not sleeping too little. In other words, getting control of yourself, getting control of your physical activities, your mental activities, even your posture, your breathing. Everything goes toward controlling the mind and withdrawing it from sense gratification. This is the problem for the soul, is that people don't even realize what their real problem is that the mind, which is constantly agitated both during waking and sleeping with ideas of enjoyment or regrets at how much I didn't enjoy, or someone stepped on my enjoyment or whatever, or fears of the hurricane taking over, all of these things completely take one away from the yogic situation. That's why the whole thing begins with going to a peaceful place, trying to avoid distractions, being completely alone. There's a lot of withdrawal in this kind of yoga, of trying to go inside. But as Prabhupada is constantly pointing out in every one of these purports, if you really study it, he's saying, but Krishna consciousness, bhakti yoga, allows you to achieve the same result in a practical way that's actually doable for modern Westerners and everyone who are not ready to leave and uproot their lives completely and do this yoga thing, which really is not feasible for us. So he brings in Maharaj Ambarish here. Now, this is a famous set of verses. Prabhupada would often quote one or more of these. And if you study it, he sees everything is covered here. He begins with the mind. Everything always starts with the mind. And he places mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. And the words, Vaikuntha Gunana Varnane. Vaikuntha here means Krishna. It's Vishnu who lives in Vaikuntha. So the words, the mind, the hands, right? He's sweeping or cleaning the mandir. He's hearing. The real foundation of bhakti yoga is the hearing and the chanting. Hearing and chanting. Everything flows from there. So Shrutim Chakara Chita Satkatodi. He's always hearing the wonderful vibrations about Achyuta, Krishna. Mukunda, there's so many names of Krishna, Hari, Achyuta, Mukunda. He's seeing the forms in the temple. Now, ideally, the process that we practice is based on what's called Bhagavad Marg. Bhagavad Marg emphasizes much more the hearing and the chanting. After all, what did Parikshit have when he was sitting there for 7 days? Just the hearing. All that was going on was that Shukadev was chanting the Bhagavatam, and he was hearing. And so was the rest of the audience, you see. And that was a complete process for them. That's all he needed. He didn't need the temple, he didn't need Mangalartik, anything like that. But the temples are for the masses, for us. Because we need and it's a perfect process. There's nothing wrong with it. To give us the form to see, the prasadam to cook, the festivals, all that goes into to building a temple, making a temple, promoting the deity, and it provides engagement for the eyes. Engagement. You notice how the artik, all the senses are there, right? You can smell the incense, you can feel the heat, right? And the water is coming down. And of course, prasadam is always in the background. It's going to come from the temple worship. What to speak of the eyes, the ears, the whole body, dancing in front. This is the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Both sides are going on. The emphasis is on Bhagavad Marg, because wherever you are, 1,000 miles from a temple, and as we know, the temples are rare. I mean, if you go to North Dakota, where's your temple, right? Of course, now you got the internet, but the internet is dangerous. One little hit of the key, and you're somewhere else. But still, there's an upside to that. But still, the temple requires so much engagement, so many hands, so much money. That's an important part of the temple: maintaining, building, improving, festivals. All of that grows out of the deity worship, and you can see it's practical. It can keep all your senses involved. Just like we had the Ratha Yatra, it's such a wonderful, all engaging, and the devotees who put it on, for months in advance, they're planning, they're getting the permits, and then the cooking that goes on. I mean, some of them have been doing it for 40 years. I remember the first LA Ratha Yatra. I was there for the first two, 77, 78. The first one happened when Prabhupada was still on the planet. He was convalescing in Vrindavan. They showed him the pictures, and he said, "Oh, I've never seen carts, such wonderful carts." He was able to appreciate. But it was, the whole temple was mobilized in the weeks leading up to that first Ratha Yatra. There was no Festival of India to come with a big truck and pull out all of the displays, which there is now, So I remember staying up late at night painting those signs, prasadam, books here, all this stuff, So it was an engagement. In other words, it's all deity worship. It's all good, you know what I'm saying? So that's what ISKCON is. That's what this society is. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he had these huge festivals that he would have the famous dolls, the dioramas that he had Bhardwaj, figure out. And they were just like we have our little friezes here, the little half sculptures with the pastimes of Krishna. So if and when you go to LA, you go into the museum there, I don't know, and they have all these dioramas. There's the changing bodies come to life practically. The music is, you've seen it? Universal form. There's a rasa dance at the end. I was there for that. It took him years to get that together. I was there. It was 75, 76, 77. So people walk in there and suddenly there's a wonderful display. Now imagine, hundreds of those in like a big square mile. Bhaktisiddhanta would put on these huge festivals. So the masses of people would come. And you would even have, like we have here, our magic shows, we'd have stuff like that to keep people interested and turn their attention to Krishna, So this is what the great acharyas do. For each age, they rack their brains, as it were. Well, how can we somehow or other inject Krishna consciousness into the present mentality? Because each age is unique. So this is a bona fide process. This is dhyana yoga, but it's practically speaking impractical. It was impractical for Arjuna. Prabhupada always brings this up. There's something called the argument, the what to speak of argument. It's often brought up, what to speak of. So the idea is that, look, Arjuna, how qualified was Arjuna? He's a personal friend of Krishna. He lived in a Dwapara Yuga, lived 1,000 years, and yet he rejected this process. So what hope do we have, of practicing this? But luckily we don't need to. And in each purport he's saying we get the same benefit, or actually even more benefit, by just practicing the principles that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us, centered on the chanting of the holy name and the hearing of Shastra, of realized souls, especially speaking, injecting the knowledge into the heart. So these verses, and what happened with Maharaj Ambarish, then the last line, kamam chadase natu kama kameya. With all of that engagement, his desires were purified, and he's getting the taste. In other words, It's not like the yogis, where you think like, all right, I'm going over the Himalayas and I'm going to practice Ashtanga yoga, and you go up there, and it's not like the taste of a festival and the association of devotees. You're all alone there, with your mind, but you've got a certain amount of will, and a few can succeed to some degree. But he's getting a taste when he is thinking of Krishna's lotus feet. It's not like it's an austerity to start doing it, but after a short while, it's just nectar. You don't want to think of anything else. The point is that the mind, which is filled with all of these material desires, because that's what you've experienced, has to be drawn to Krishna, to his holy name and everything. But at a certain point, and it can be pretty quick, the more intense you are and serious, the other desires kind of fall away. And it's not like it's distracting you anymore. Just like we remember we read, I think twice it's quoted, this verse by Yamunacharya, Yadivadi mamacheta Krishna pada vinde. Ever since I've been enjoying new mellows at the lotus, by serving the lotus feet of Nandanandana, then whenever I think of, he's a king, he had so many experiences, all his sex life, he just doesn't want to think about it anymore. It's not like he has to draw his mind away from that. It just bubbles up because it's a memory. So this is a very important distinction. So all of these activities, speaking about Krishna, thinking about his lotus feet, cleaning his temple, and hearing about him, all the other things, then the last part, which is the key, kamam dadase natu kama kamya. His desires have been completely purified, and all he wanted to do was fulfill the desires of Krishna. Kamam chadase, he's fulfilling he wanted to serve the desires of Krishna. In this way, he's a uttama shloka janashaya, he's a uttama bhakta. So that's the real goal, is where your only desire is to serve Krishna. That's the why do we exalt the gopis? Because they have the most intense and pure desire to serve Krishna's lotus feet, meet his desires. That's the definition of love in the 4th chapter of the Adi Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That 4th chapter is very key. We're coming up on Radhashtami. I'm supposed to speak, as I do every year. I'm going to quote from that 4th chapter, because there the explanation of the mystery of the gopis' love and why it's so exalted. Why did Lord Chaitanya tout that this love of the gopis is the highest jewel and highest perfection of love of Krishna? Because they had the most ardent, intense desire to please Krishna and and meet his desires. And they were willing to forego and give up their good name, go out in the middle of the night. I mean, in Vedic culture, that meant you go out in the middle of the night, you don't come back. You're gone. Your name is mud. Forget it. They didn't care. They didn't care at all. That's why they're so great. And of course, it didn't happen that way, but they were willing to do that. And so that's what's happening here with Ambarish. With all of these practices that we read up, it culminates in his only desire is to serve Krishna. Has no personal desire anymore. Now, just to review, most of you have heard before the pastime of Ambarish and Durvasa, but it's very instructive, because Durvasa was very expert in Ashtanga yoga. He was like a powerful yogi. He had mystic powers, and he had many, many followers. He was a heavyweight. I can't get over this. Recently I learned what Durvasa actually means, because the names all have meaning. They all have very important. Like Samba. Please forgive me if it's a problem. Just raise your hand. But every so often these things come up, and it recalls an editing problem. That was cleared up. Samba. You know what Samba means? Samba is one of Krishna's sons. I forget, by Jambavati, I believe. Very prominent. He's a prominent warrior. He comes up in the latter part of the 10th canto. So Samba literally means Sa Amba, with the mother. He was a mother's pet, So Prabhupada, he's dictating this whole book, and he calls him the pet son. He said because he was the pet son, he was known as Samba, Mama's boy. Of course, then he grew up to be a powerful warrior, but that was his nickname, I guess. Samba. So the transcriber, probably an accent, the technology in 1970 wasn't what it is today, you know, those little tapes. So they heard bad son. Because he was the bad son, he's known as Samba. And we went over the tapes, you know, carefully listening to the tapes and looking at what it was, and we made it into the pet son, not the bad son. Anyway, so how did I get onto that? Ambarish. Anyway, so Durvasa. So what does Durvasa's name mean? Now, I thought I knew what it meant. Vasa, I think, can also mean clothes. Maybe it's Vaishya. I thought it was. So Durvasa means clothes far away. He's walking naked. The yogis do that a lot. You know, they go around naked. But it doesn't mean that. I learned it. Durvasa means a resident. Vasa means residence. Dur means difficult. He was so irascible, a yogi, that he was difficult, impossible to live with. You know what I mean? Like if you have a roommate and it's just like, are you kidding? You know, I gotta get out of here. So, Durvasa. So what did he do here? He became envious. Now he's got thousands of followers. He's a big yogi, but he's not getting the same honor that Ambarish is getting. This comes up in the 9th canto. The 9th canto is a very interesting canto. So he plans out how he can, you know, bring Ambarish down. So Ambarish, being a wonderful devotee, as we read here, he was a very strict follower of Ekadashi. Now Ekadashi, Orthodox Ekadashi, means from the day before, you don't eat anything. And then the night of Ekadashi, you stay up completely, just hear and chant. Don't drink water, you know, it's pretty strict. And then, as we read, there's a certain time for breakfast in the morning. I mean, I remember we never had this before. It was about a year ago. We had a breakfast time. There was no time. It was like 1 second. So what are you supposed to do? You know? So I went outside. I had everything ready for the devotees. You know, I said, look, all we can do is we'll break it at that time and then pray for forgiveness if we went over, you know, we were out of the... But Ambarish is really strict. And he wanted to, if you break it within the interval, then you get the full benefit. You don't offend Hari, you know, that whole, it's a whole level. So Durvasa conspired. He figured out a way in which he could put Ambarish into difficulty. So he arrived on Ekadashi morn, you know, before the time for breakfast. And of course, Ambarish is a king, a Kshatriya, and Durvasa is a Brahmin, you know, very higher caste. So Ambarish was very solicitous. He said, well, would you like to help, you know, come and break fast with me, the Ekadashi? And Durvasa said, of course, yes, of course. But I'd like to take bath first, you know, which is what you do. If you're on a big trip, you know, you take bath before you take prasad. It's clean. So he went into the river, the lake there in the kingdom, but he stayed in, knowing full well when the interval was, that it was getting to the end of the time to break the fast. So Ambarish, he took some advice from his council of Brahmins in the kingdom, in the court. What should I do? And they kind of scratched their heads. So he said, well, I have an idea. I'll just drink water. Because water is breaking a fast and not breaking the fast. You know? So he took a little sip of water, and this way he broke the fast in the interval, but he didn't offend his guests. It's a real offense, especially for a Brahmin, you know, with Kshatriya, if you eat before your guest. You know, that's an etiquette. You're supposed to serve your guest, or if he asks you, you can take prasad with him. So, you know, he needed to sip some water, and that was it. And then, so the time expired for the breaking the fast, and then Durvasa, he comes out of the water, and with his mystic power, you know, he could understand that Ambarish had drunk a little water. So he took huge offense at this, obviously inoffensive act, but he wanted, this was his plan. So what does he do? You know what he did? He pulled out a hair and he created a kritya, which I learned from looking in the dictionary, which is not, that is a female fiery demoness, all fire. And this fiery demoness is coming toward Ambarish to incinerate him. This is the reaction. You can see why Durvasa is impossible to live with. How'd you like to live with someone like that? Anyway, I'll go with it. So what does Ambarish do? Nothing. It's just like, you know, just like Prahlad. What did he do to counteract all of the attempts of his father to kill him? Nothing. He just meditated on Krishna and prayed. And that's what Ambarish did. He didn't flinch. Imagine this big fire coming at you. It's almost like instinctual to run or do something. No, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. If this is Krishna's will, So what happened was that the chakra, Krishna's chakra, who, if you read the story, read the pastime, you see it had already been given over to Ambarish. He didn't use it for anything, but Vishnu so much liked him that he gave him access to his chakra. So the chakra, on his own initiative, came and annihilated the Kritya, and then went after Durvasa. Now, to be killed by Krishna's chakra is actually a very exalted position. He probably should, if he just, but he wasn't in that position. He was scared stiff. So he starts running, and running means he's going throughout the universe. He goes to Shiva first, I think, and says, please help me. He said, I can't do anything. That's Krishna's chakra. Are you kidding? And then goes, Brahma, can't help you. He goes to Vaikuntha. And he goes to Narayan is there. He's that powerful a yogi. He said, please save me from your chakra. And so Narayan, these are very famous statements. I forget the Sanskrit now. Aham bhakta paradino. It says, I'm not independent. I'm completely under the control of my bhaktas. And then the most famous one, which I stupidly forgot. I don't know anything but my devotees, and the devotees don't know anything but me. And basically told them, if you want to be relieved, you have to go back down to Ambarish and surrender to him and ask him for forgiveness. Which he did. He ran down. And of course, Ambarish, he didn't want to hurt Durvasa. So he prays to the chakra, beautiful prayers, says, please relieve this yogi, like that. So the chakra. So Durvasa was taught a lesson, where real yogic power is. Same thing Hiranyakashipu learned. Where do you get your powers, to resist all my attempts to kill you? The same place you do, Father, from Narayan, is he in this pillar? Boom, the whole story. So that's the same thing with Ambarish here. So this means that in the ultimate issue, the process of bhakti yoga, if we follow it carefully, and it's designed for us in this Kali Yuga, the process we're given, we can achieve the heights of yoga even greater than the regular yogis. And what's coming up is a really wonderful part. I like this description of samadhi in 20 to 23, which Prabhupada would sometimes quote. And it describes, if you actually succeed in this Ashtanga yoga, you're realizing Krishna. Don't forget that Krishna described in text 14, after all, Shiro sitting in such a way, practicing pranayama, asita matpada. The whole object of the yoga is me. In other words, it's not the void, it's not some city or something, it's me. So basically, he's talking about Krishna consciousness here. And the end result is immersion in unlimited happiness, which we'll describe in 2023. Okay, any questions on these points? Getting control of the mind. Viniyatam. All right, let's do one more. 19. Yata dipo navatasto ningati sopamasmata yogino yata chittasya yunjito yogamatmanaha. As a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self. And notice there's a cap S, self there. That's Krishna in the heart. Purport: a truly Krishna-conscious person, always absorbed in transcendence, in constant undisturbed meditation on his worshipable Lord, is as steady as a lamp in a windless place. So, just to give you a little coming attractions of the next chapter, as Arjun will complain that the mind is so powerful and obstinate that it's like controlling the wind, So the idea is that this is an act of will, placing the mind on the transcendence, And if you do it right, then it's just like a lamp in a windless place. In other words, the mind is quieted and you're able to meditate on the Lord. But what a wonderful thing it would be if the mind was spontaneously attracted to the object of meditation. Then what's the difficulty? And that's what Krishna consciousness does. At the end of this chapter, Krishna will say, well, okay, Arjun, You're worrying what will happen if you fail, and you're complaining it's so difficult. But you should know that the best yogi is someone who's always thinking of me within his heart with great faith and love, And you can just practically hear Arjun breathe a big sigh of relief. Oh, well, I'm always thinking of you. You're my best friend, I mean, I love you. So that's encouraging. But in the next chapter, beginning of the next chapter, Krishna is speaking to us through Arjun and saying, now I'm going to explain how you can adjust things, you can develop so that the mind can naturally be attracted to me. In other words, that makes it easy. Then it's not a question of wrestling with the mind. The mind is automatically attracted to Krishna. And that's why he's Krishna, because he's all attractive. The problem is that we can't perceive Krishna in our present agitated state in the mind, in the modes of nature. So the process of bhakti forces us, it draws the mind to Krishna, sometimes by force, Hare Krishna, but that's not a difficult process. You just have to be willing to do it, especially if the dancing and chanting and the music is going on. All of that helps to focus the mind. If you go down to the rave, there'll be the singing and the dancing, and you'll be focused on the lower modes of nature, automatically. But if it's Krishna, the name, and there's the deities and everything, then the mind actually gets drawn. That's why there's an ecstasy there. Even if someone walks in, if they get drawn in and they're actually listening, then there's Krishna. He's attracting them. But doing it systematically, so that you increase your attraction to Krishna, that makes thinking of Krishna second nature. I was just listening to one lecture. There's so many wonderful passages in the Bhagavatam that are important to remember. So in the Kapila Dev chapters, in the latter part of the third canto, again, he defines what an Uttama Bhakta is in terms of his attraction for Krishna Gita. And unfortunately, my mind isn't what it was. I forget the exact Sanskrit, but what he says is, when the mind is spontaneously attracted, as soon as you hear about Krishna, just as the Ganges flowing into the sea. This is a metaphor that's given when it's so powerful that you can't stop it. Any river, just before it goes into the sea, that's its most powerful thing. The Amazon is you can't stop it. Every major river is like that. The Mississippi. So here, of course, they call it the Ganges, Ganga Sagara. Ganges, the Ganges, Sagar is the ocean. So Queen Kunti has the same prayer. She says, Traime Nandi Vishaya Mati Madhupate Sakrit Ratamud Bhataradha Gange Vaugamadhanvati. Udhanvati means flowing into the ocean. She's praying there in wonderful prayers in the first canto that, my dear Lord Krishna, let my mind always think of you, and let my love flow toward you just as the Ganges powerful flow when it flows into the ocean. So he's praying like that. So Kapila Deva is saying, when one's mind is immediately attracted to the pure chanting of anything about Krishna, including his holy name or description, so just like the Ganges flowing into the sea, there's no question of distraction, then that's a sign of purity of heart. And you'll see that example in the CC constantly. Lord Chaitanya and his associates. Time just disappears. Kirtan, 7 hours later, the kirtan is going, finally they get tired and they sit down in the prasadam. 7 hours. Who can imagine? A lot of it goes on all night, all night. And then the sun rose and the Lord had to do his morning duties. You remember yesterday? So, this means that there's this ardent feeling for Krishna, and it's awakened and focused by description, by sound vibration. And we have abundant sound vibration. And this is what the six Goswamis did. We're just coming up on Radhashtami. I was reviewing some of these beautiful prayers by Rupa Goswami in the Stavamala, 108 names of Radharani, But just the first thing that Kushakrata translated was the Mukunda Muktavali, which is part of the Stavamala. Mukunda Muktavali means a necklace of pearl-like verses for Krishna. Mukta can mean pearls. Avali means of Siri. So, they're beautiful descriptions. The aesthetics is so wonderful. Udadi katamodadi rutabangam navadadadikitano rasadangam yuvati vadaya rutamadanatatangam pranamati yamadatatikatadangam. which means his flute emanates entrancing sounds for the cowherd girls whose love abounds for the clever cloud-complexioned lord who's dancing upon the Kalindi shore. It's just a meditation on Krishna. Now, when you hear that, and it's just like it takes your mind away, and attracts you unlimitedly, that's the sign of purity. But our mind, we have so much distraction, our minds are still here and there, But that's the method for purifying the mind is precisely the hearing and chanting. In other words, you got to discipline yourself, and and do it in such a way that it becomes regulated, and so you can develop the attraction. So this verse, I'm not going to read 2023. We'll read that one tomorrow. But this is a wonderful purport here. It's describing the state of samadhi, and how Prabhupada, of course, he applies this to Krishna consciousness, and that it's, this favorite line Prabhupada would always quote, "Yang labdva chapadam labam munyade nadikam dada." Having attained this is the first line of 22. Once attaining this state of pure ecstatic Krishna consciousness, you think there's nothing greater to attain. There can be nothing greater to attain than this. That's what we're aiming for. And the Krishna consciousness means the whole Vedic culture is, okay, don't throw in a towel. Try to become perfect in this lifetime. What is this, called? You learned it as a child, right? Tamasima jyotirgama. What is it? You forgot it. Asatoma sadgamaya, mityuma amitam gamaya, right? Take me from the darkness to the light, my Lord. From death to immortality. From the temporary to the eternal. You've probably heard that even, right? Before you ever heard of Krishna consciousness. I did. So that's a statement that the human form of life has a certain mission, and we should embrace that. The problem is, on the material side, you're always settling. It's a whole. I remember growing up. I don't know if all of you went through this, but I had a certain period of time when I thought, I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to see if I can be perfect. It's a little childish. But then you soon find the hairs came out of my comb, and I was thinking, oh no, I'm losing my hair. I'm getting bald. I had a terror of getting bald. It's irony, It's ridiculous. But that's what material life is. It's a bunch of settlings. All right. We're married now, and we'll settle in. You know what I mean? It's not exactly what I had hoped. It's not, that, but okay. And I have this child, a beautiful child, grow up, and not exactly what I had hoped. He or she went here or there, but it's settling. So that's the living entity is just giving up the real mission of the human life, which is like at the end of the 16th chapter. What do we find? There's 2 verses. There's 4 verses. He says, "Tribadham narakastedam dvaram nasham." There's these 3 gates leading to the hellish life: lust, anger, and greed. One who is able to give up these gates performs activity. The next verse. For his ultimate good, it's a shreya, and goes to the ultimate goal. In other words, you can really escape these gates, lust, anger, and greed. Not easy. So then he says, but, on the other hand, it brings in the Shastra. The Shastra is our shelter here. One who discards the rules and regulations of Shastra and acts according to his or her whims, then you don't get you don't get perfection, don't get ultimate happiness, and certainly don't go to the supreme goal. Now, most people have said, well, I've already thrown in a towel on those things anyway, so what can you tell me? But human life means we should try to think, what is that perfection? How can I achieve it? How can I achieve ultimate unending happiness? And how can I go to that supreme goal so I don't have to come back to this hellish place? So what's the answer? The last verse of the 16th chapter. Tasmat chastram pramanam te karya bhavastito. Therefore, as evidence, as authority for what to do and what not to do, and that's what life is all about. You're doing one thing and not another. One should accept the Shastra as it is, from a proper source. And having understood the rules and regulations, one should actually follow them as a matter of duty. You can't follow them spontaneously at first, because spontaneously you're attracted to sense gratification. So this is where the sadhana comes in, the practice comes in.
And then the whole idea is, I'm going to attain perfection, the supreme happiness, and the supreme goal. So it makes human life adventurous rather than just throwing in the towel and settling for this, settling for that, And as you get older, you got to settle for less and less. It's a defeat. We don't want to be defeated. So that's what this movement is all about. Is those few who are ready to enter into the adventure of trying to make their lives perfect, truly perfect, and in the process helping others to be perfect. Hare Krishna. All right, I'll stop haranguing you. What should we read? Should I read a little bit something about Radharani? We're coming up on Radhashtami. Is that okay? All right. Oh, here, this is what I wanted to do. These acharyas are so merciful. So, Rupa Goswami has given us an easy way to perfection. Of course, the easiest way we know to chant Hare Krishna. But, let's see. Okay, I'm going to have to look it up because I don't know exactly where it is. But there's a little poem, 10 names of Radharani. It's called the Ananda Chandrika. Means the moonlight of bliss. And 10 names means like 2 verses. They're in 2 little verses, like little Bhagavad Gita verses. And then there's 2 more verses describing the benefits. And it says that anyone who chants these verses, it doesn't say you have to be a pure devotee, you don't have to be in Vrindavan, It says anyone who chants them will achieve. And the benefits are meant to interest you in chanting it. Complete elimination of all suffering. Yo rahasyam sitim pated. Then one will buddhi saubhagya bhushita, be decorated with all good fortune. And the best one of all is tvaritam karuna patram radha madhava bhaved, that very quickly one will become an object of mercy for Radha and Madhava. Now, not much of a sacrifice, just 2 little verses. So I know that you're not going to be able to chant them spontaneously, but we're going to go word by word so that you all get to chant them, and then trusting in the promise of Rupa Goswami, who become objects of mercy for Radha Madhava. That's my idea. So I'm going to just find this. Let's see. Okay, I just have to search. I should have planned this, but I think I can get it. There they are. Okay, you ready? We're going to do this. We've all had done Pushpanjali, right? Word by word, that everyone can chant. So here are the 10 names of Radha. First one is Radha, Damodara, Preshta, Radhika, Varshabhanavi, Samasta, Ballavi, Vrinda, Dammila, Utangsa, Mallika. Don't worry, I'm going to tell what they all mean. Krishna, Priyavali, Mukya, Gandharva, Lalita Sakhi, Vishakha, Sakya, Sukini, Harihrid, Bringa, Manjari. That's it. You chanted it. Now you're going to get the benefits. I'll tell you what they mean. So the first name is Radha. Okay, we know what that means. 2, Damodar Preshta, she who is most dear to Lord Damodar. Radhika, the best worshipper of Krishna. And Varshabhanavi, the daughter of King Vrishabhanu. 5. And this is the most complicated one. Samasta Ballavi Vrinda Dhammilo Tangsa Mallika, which means she is the crowning garland of Mallika flowers on the decorated braided hair of all the gopis. In other words, she's the best of the gopis. It's a very poetic way of saying it. Then it says Krishna Priyavali Mukya, the foremost of Krishna's beloveds. Gandharva, an expert singer and musician and dancer. She took birth as a Gandharva, in which she taught them all how to sing and dance and play for Krishna. So Gandharva is one of her names, or Gandharvika is another one. We had Gandharvika Dasi here. Lalita Sakhi, the best friend of Lalita. And Vishakha Sakhi Sukini, she's made very happy by the friendly dealings of Vishakha, her other best friend. And then the last name, Hari Rid Bringa Manjari. She's a flower blossom that attracts the black bee of Lord Hari's heart. Now, I'll just read the benefits again. One who reads this confidential prayer, or chants it, which you did, which bears the title Ananda Chandrika, the moonlight of bliss, and which is beautiful with 10 names of the Queen of Vrindavan, becomes free of all troubles and decorated with great good fortune. That person quickly becomes the object of mercy of Shri Shri Radha Madhava. There it is. Bring is a bee. Bring is one of the words for bee. There's different words for bee. Madhu Vrata, one who has taken a vow to make honey. Another name for the bees. There's different names for bees. Okay, what is that verse? Krishna Bhavandam Vande Manma Nasamoto Kadama Payanita Padapankachamakadande. A Madhukara is one who makes honey. That's another name for the bee. See, they have used different words according to the meter that they need. So Hari Rid Bringa, comparing Krishna's heart to a bee, which always attracted to the flower of Radharani. So, there you go. The stars. Yeah, a lot of them have names. The names of the stars or names of gopis. Yeah. So, and also Wednesday is Lalita's appearance day. She's 2 days older than Radharani. And there's a Lalita Ashtaka, I think it was written by Vishwanath, which one year I put into poetry. We went on an outing in Vrindavan to Lalita's appearance place. It's called Uchagawan. And I think it was there, if you look, there's a book that we have on the rack here called The Journey of Self-Discovery, which I helped to put together back in 1990. Well, after many years of printing, they wanted to do a new cover. And they couldn't figure out what to do, so they asked me, do you have any pictures that you might want? So I had taken this one picture of Uchagawan, and I said, well, okay, try it and see. This is all the book distributors. Vaisheshika Prabhu had his input because the book distributors sell the book on the basis of the cover and everything. So he thought that was a really nice picture. So that's the one they used. So that's, if you look on there, there's this mystical picture in the haze, there's this temple and everything. And that's from Lalita's appearance place. So I have that Ashtaka, maybe we'll read it on Wednesday night. That's very nice. Lalita is Radharani's best friend. They have the different moods. Lalita is kind of very fiery, and oftentimes when Krishna and Radharani having an argument, she'll side with Radharani and start berating Krishna, which he loves. He likes that. They steal his flute. She's always defending Radharani's honor. All that stuff. And Vishaka is much more submissive, and she makes peace, and Lalita makes war. But they're the dearest friends of Radharani, Lalita and Vishaka. If you see the altar in Vrindavan, I can show you. I have some nice. The Lalita and Vishaka on the different sides of Radha and Krishna. They're fanning, Radha and Krishna. They're part of the permanent deities there. So, okay. Okay, so we can adjourn and ready for kirtan.